It's crazy because I was just thinking, like, man, when we were doing a bunch of episodes last off season, it felt like it was just like boom, 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 boom. But then I realized like everything happened a month later, right? Like the draft was like a month later than it was this year's, and then same with summer league. So it just kind of flowed with a very short break into training camp, preseason, all that good stuff. So right now it's just like, and like the only news that's happened lately, which I'm really, really thankful is over, is the whole Kevin Durant thing. That's
Yeah.
something that, uh, we've talked about online, offline, and, I have episodes about this, and I'm just like, thank God it's over. He decided to stay with the Nets and quote unquote like try to bring a championship to the Nets, and the release, right? I love the fact that it had the Nets logo and then KD and Rich Kleinman's the boardroom logo,
Yeah.
right?
What was it? They've decided to move forward with their partnership. It's like, what is this? It's like it's not a merger or anything. Like I don't it's so odd, right? Like, I mean, I think lots of ink has been spilled about this, where he could go and what kind of leverage he had. It seemed like he didn't have much leverage. There wasn't much out there, and I think it ended up. I mean, I think it ended up, as well as it could have, I guess, in a way. But it definitely seems like this story isn't over yet. But it's odd because like amidst that, and reading about it afterwards, it's like they don't have a bad squad. Let's assume that last year's too long trade saga, Ben Simmons, like let's assume maybe he comes back, and they have a good squad. So I mean, they have a chance in the East. So it's like and it was never really clear what the issue was, right? But anyway, for now it's over. We'll see. And I think at this point I think about a month away from maybe training camp starting. So
Mhm.
that gives us some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Nets, it's like, I find it interesting because all of a sudden now the story is, I mean, there's a lot of storylines with them, but like the first thing I thought of was Ben Simmons, right? Like this is his chance. He can totally flip the script on his narrative, and if he plays well, shows up, and can help the Nets win and convince Kevin Durant that he's like, like a real dude. And if Kyrie decides to actually, play and commit, then they can do well. There's also the other scenario where Ben Simmons just proves to everybody that they were right about him, and they stink. KD complains. Kyrie signs with the Lakers in the offseason or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it'll be entertaining. Me personally, though, I'm also glad that Kyrie's going to stay now because I didn't really want him to go to the Lakers because that would have made them better. But also, I just wanted to see this. Uh, I'm curious to see. Like like I've talked to you about. Like I've always been appreciative and supportive of Kevin Durant for his Warriors years, and I had no issues really with him leaving. I understood what we were getting and then what the deal was, that he might leave, and he did. It's fine. But definitely, like, my opinion of him and this whole ridiculous summer, I mean, it's that other stuff with the Warriors, I can compartmentalize it, but everything
Yeah.
else, man, it's just it's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a clown show. You know what I mean? Like he had pretty much handpicked his team and his coach, Steve Nash, and then it was like, I want Nash and Marks gone. The guys who
Yeah.
gave you everything you wanted, or you picked them yourselves. I got so sick of it over the summer. I'm
Yeah.
just really, really, really glad it's over.
And and from a Warriors perspective, Warriors right now perspective, it's also nice because like we don't have to hear any of those rumors anymore. I mean,
Yep.
just even earlier this week, you know, Bill Simmons was saying like, "Oh, I'm still hearing they're still interested," and it's like, But I don't know if it was this week or last week, but right down to the wire. So, so let's hope that's the end of it for that.
Yeah, yeah. Please, because yeah, moving on. The other thing I just wanted to get your thoughts on was Chet Holmgren. Uh, the unicorn tore ligaments in his foot, which
Yeah.
is a real bummer. Like my thing with Chet Holmgren is like a couple seasons ago, I randomly was just on Instagram and he showed up on like my Explorer or whatever you call it, and I was like cracking up because I was like, this guy's so skinny, and I was like, oh, he's got skills. I kind of joked about like, oh, it's the white KD,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I had no idea that he was like a top prospect, right? I mean, I guess I could have assumed because he was on like my feed, but I just thought it was just some random like, hey, look at this kid. And so I've followed his career a little bit, and I was really really excited. And I've talked to you about this. I've said this on the podcast. I wanted to see him and James Wiseman play
Yeah.
against each other, just because they're so different, but they're both like number two picks. And unfortunately, now their other similarity is that they're both number two picks who've gotten hurt and,
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
miss at least the whole season. I'm pretty pissed about that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks anytime a player misses a year. Like, you don't want to see that in anybody's career. I mean, and this is a player that a lot of people were excited about, and there was a lot of divisiveness about whether or not he should be, a top draft pick in terms of like because of exactly this, the durability issue. Like, I mean, what happened was like I don't think that's necessarily due to him being a twig, uh but the worst part is like is when things are, you are who they say that you were, right? That the kind of confirmation of everybody's kind of chatter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say whether that was because of his kind of his frame issues, right? So the other thing that I think there was a good article about in the Athletic, talking about how this this injury happened relatively high profile, right? It was Jamal Crawford's Pro-Am League in Seattle,
Yeah. Yeah.
which has been going on for a long time, and they had a lot of pros there. They had a few unfortunate things in terms of like they had to shut the league down because they
Mm-hmm.
had some condensation issues with the floor. And the article by Law Murray was kind of speculating on whether this would be the end of pros participating in this kind of thing, which would be really unfortunate. And I mean, it seemed to be the tenor of people's response was that no, we don't think so. We don't think that NBA players will be banned from these leagues because these leagues are great. Like that league
Yeah.
up there, the Drew League. I mean, I remember the San Francisco Pro Am used to be at the old Kezar. I think I went to go see Jason Kidd. He's
Mm.
probably still at Cal. I saw him play. Maybe I want to say I may have seen Sprewell play there too. I
Wow.
mean that kind of thing. It's just electric, right? And just like the one in Seattle is free, and so you get to see all these kind of local heroes play with pros, and it's just a great environment. So it would be a shame if that kind of thing wasn't allowed, but
Mhm.
I mean, it's for real. It's for real basketball fans, real basketball players, and the pros. Everybody enjoys those kinds of things. So you hope that's not the end of it.
Yeah, I don't think it will be, for a lot of those reasons. And like it was kind of a freak injury, right? Like nobody plays like defense that hard, and it's pick up, it's competitive, whatever. But like, I mean, I saw the play after you mentioned it to me. LeBron kind of just went in, and the guy got bumped. He just landed awkwardly, right? And
Yeah,
the thing is, like, that's not that's something that could have happened to him during the regular season. You know what I mean? Like, so it's tough to say if like that's who he is, and that would have happened eventually to him. I think it's tough because he is such a unique player
yeah,
that yes, knock on wood, he'll come back 100%, but we're not going to see like him like really really just like take off right away. Like you don't want to see like a something where it leads to another injury or like a Porzingis type thing, right? Where
yeah,
like he never achieves anything close to his potential and whatnot. And these are things we've talked about with James Wiseman, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope the kid comes back. OKC was like one of my top 5 teams that I was going to watch all year, right?
Yeah.
Just because like I love watching like the rookies and stuff like that. Like Detroit is going to be terrible, but I'm going to watch them.
Oh yeah.
I mean OKC. Yeah, I'm not going to watch them as much, because I was really curious to see how Giddy plays with Chet, because I thought that they developed like a decent chemistry, and that
Yeah.
as good as Giddy was last year, having somebody like Chet was actually going to really like boost him into a next level stratosphere type thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially in terms of like highlights and just notoriety and whatnot. So
Yeah. No, it's definitely unfortunate. I mean, I did see like a clip with a doctor who was breaking down the injury and said it's not one of those types of injuries that lingers. Like once it's healed, it's it's typically not something that carries through a person's career. So that there's some good news, but in the next year you won't see him. So
yeah,
that's unfortunate.
yeah, and as I mentioned to you over text, I'm like, in a weird way, this takes some pressure off of James Wiseman, or at least some focus off of him, as he's no longer the most recent 7-footer number 2 pick
Yeah.
who's had like a career or a season ending injury. I was on The Athletic reading about the Chet Holmgren injury. And, I mean, comments are, they are what they are, but you see like a couple people already saying like bust. They're just trolling, of course, but
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, well, at least that's one person who's not saying bust to James Wiseman.
That's right.
But
Well, I mean, in Wiseman's case, he'll probably be able to fly under the radar, in part because of this, and also because of the Warriors' success this last year. So,
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
good for him.